Now you're starting to see a lot of immigrants come to Japan, in which increased, in which a lot of other problems have increased. And I believe this is a strong problem of the deconstruction of the Japanese family. You see how immigration will drastically change. So because of this problem, people have been saying, hey, Japan needs to separate itself from the rest of the world. However, I don't believe it's possible in this day and age. Konbanwa minasan, kyo desu. I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, as someone who loves Japanese culture, and if you're somebody who's been around Japanese people or been involved in Japanese culture in some way, there has been an ongoing thought some Japanese have that Japan should isolate itself again from the rest of the world. There are a lot of factors concerning this, but I believe the main factors for people believing this is because, for one, you see how immigration will drastically change Japan, and they see the dangers of Japan losing its cultural identity, being influenced by, for example, Western culture or surrounding countries around Japan. It's no surprise that I believe that because of the 250 years of Japan being isolated from the rest of the world, given Japan some major advantages compared to other countries. I think, for one, it's given Japan a very unique identity because Japan didn't really have much of an opportunity to be influenced by, let's say, Western countries from like Europe and America. Also, I think it helped cultivate a very unique style of culture that is very unique to the Japanese as far as working together. Japan having very low crime, a sense of order, a sense of no chaos, and sense of like everyone knows what to do and what not to do in Japanese society. I also believe there's a lot of cons to Japan being isolated for so long. I think, for one, many Japanese people can be very ignorant or very unknowing about different cultures. Many Japanese probably haven't had very intimate relationships or encounters with foreigners. I also think in some aspects, Japanese culture is behind compared to the rest of the world. For example, when it comes to how we view the internet, the really rigid social structure and hierarchy that's in Japanese culture. The sense of people are promoted based on longevity, not necessarily based on merit. For example, an older person who's been at the company a lot longer will get promoted even if he doesn't have as much good skills as a young person who's developed those skills, who deserves the job. The older person will get that job because they're older. And I believe currently Japan's current problem with Japanese not having families and the low birth rates, I believe a lot of that uniqueness to Japanese society is a double-edged sword, because I do believe many Japanese have this feeling of shogunai. It can't be helped. You know, Japan is failing in a lot of areas. Oh, it can't be helped. What can we do? We'll just ignore the problem. I feel like a lot of Japanese tend to have that mindset. Because of that, where it seems that many Japanese are very nonchalant about how they approach problems that are unique to Japan. Now you're starting to see a lot of immigrants come to Japan, in which increased, in which a lot of other problems have increased. And I believe this is a strong problem of the deconstruction of the Japanese family, of Japanese society. With that, like I mentioned earlier, you have people who want to isolate themselves, but I don't think this is a good idea. So because of this problem, people have been saying, hey, Japan needs to separate itself from the rest of the world. However, I don't believe it's possible in this day and age. I believe centuries ago, when the world wasn't as connected because of things like the internet, I believe it was a lot easier for a country to close its borders. However, in current society, if Japan was to try that, it would be extremely difficult because of how interconnected Japan is with the rest of the world. And currently how the world is structured, I'm assuming if any country tried to close their borders, especially a country like Japan, which has significantly helped change the world, I don't think other countries would allow Japan to isolate itself again. More importantly, because of globalism or globalization, I believe that the Japanese government wanted to shut down Japan and close it off to the rest of the world. It would be utterly impossible because Japan will still be connected in some way to the outside world because of things like the internet. But not only that, let's say that Japan is able to close its borders and Japan isolates itself again. Would Japanese culture change within itself to accommodate this new style of government or this new style of culture? What I mean is by, for example, I mentioned earlier that Japanese are not getting married and they're not having kids. If Japan isolates itself from the rest of the world, in which they're not relying on immigrants to come and populate the nation, the Japanese people decide within themselves to change some aspects of their culture that can cultivate things like family, men and women getting married, changing the overworking culture and things of that nature. Because like I mentioned earlier, it seems that a lot of Japanese people tend to have this feeling of shogunai. It can't be helped. There's nothing we can do. That's the way it is. I'm just gonna live my life. So if there's no immigrants that are coming to change Japan for the good or for the worse, could Japanese people within themselves change their own culture for the better? Or do they want to? That's my biggest issue with this ideology of isolation. And I think Japan isolating itself from the rest of the world again would cause more harm. It would make Japanese culture fall even more behind compared to other societies. Even though I think a lot of these people might have good intentions when saying things like Japan should isolate itself to protect its cultural identity, to protect its people. If Japan or Japanese people within themselves can't rearrange their culture to become better Japanese, I think it will be extremely difficult, if it were to happen, to close off the country and still progress and thrive as Japanese people. I just don't think this idea works. And I think a lot of the issues Japan is facing, a lot of it has to do with the sense of isolation that many Japanese people have experienced because of the locking down of their country. That's just my thoughts. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Hanto, arigatou gozaimasu. Minna, 気をつけて。じゃあね。